What's up? So, check this out. This video is about the ego and consciousness and suffering, and the greatest answer to the greatest level of suffering that can cause death. I just got off the phone with Coach Rob, and we have these hour-long conversations often, breaking apart and dismantling the ego and discussing these divides in consciousness with yourself, with your business, with your life, with your thoughts, with relationship, with your own energies, okay? And what happens is we have these blocking points of resistance, and the more that we evolve in consciousness, which is really just dismantling the ego and dismantling the viruses and software that has been planted into us by the culture and by the system and by, the global cartel, by the media and things like that, of the way things should be. So we have all these dichotomies and reverse polarities. So this is so fucking deep, it's like the center of suffering. I looked at my own eyeballs in the mirror when I was talking to him, and I could see my spirit and my flesh. You can lean into suffering. One of my best friends drank himself to death. He held on to a certain egoic ideal so tightly that he was so loyal in one area of his life that it was true for him. And it was rooted in truth, a deep level of truth, but it was encased in ego. I can't explain it here in this video, but he took it literally and rode it all the way down into death, where he drank himself to death, and I could see it and I could feel it in the way that he would talk. The irony of it was so deep, it was so fucking twisted, but rooted in this level of like stark truth. And he took it to the death. Because any other way would have been sophistry. God. I consider myself a student of consciousness, and I believe that the suffering that I go through and the peeling away of the layers of the jawbreaker and pressing through the cracks and seeping, it's like, what do you call it, rolled out and pressed over. This cat, man, constantly wants attention. This fucking cat. She's a good cat. But, enlightenment through suffering. Eckhart Tolle talks about that in The Pain Body. The ability to learn how to become detached from all attacks, period, to where you stand in death moment by moment. And the more you get good at doing this, and the more you become resolved in your consciousness, is the deeper and deeper and finer the more attacks will become at more and more levels of distinction that will be required for you to make. The mass of people in public are absolutely fucking insane. If you meditate long enough, you could literally just go on Facebook or YouTube or turn on the news or just go out in public and go, oh my God. I'm not saying this in some type of prejudging type of way. Like, everybody's insane. The public, are insane. Like, insanity, neurosis, and pathology is running in the minds of people like programs, and we're animatrons. We're literally fucking completely cut off from consciousness. So the answer to this is, meditation, seeking consciousness, seeking silence, seeking solitude, or for a woman it could be seeking more connection and love and divinity and stuff like that. And for men it's usually, or a masculine, so you say men, woman, masculine, feminine, but it's really somebody with a masculine core that would benefit from seeking more masculine solitude to develop that emptiness even more so, so there's not conflicting. Now when you can become rooted in that, then you can have, see, I don't want to set any landmines off or triggers in the way that I talk about it, but I'll just leave that for another video. I'll let Coach Rob explain that shit. When I talk about that stuff, see, usually like masculine, feminine, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Masculine, feminine consciousness? I'm fucking masculine. Like, but there's these, we're talking about energy here, right? Different arcs of polarity. So the masculine consciousness can have a feminized shell, kitty cat, like the nucleus of an atom, and then the feminine consciousness can have a masculinized shell, and like reciprocals, they can create a codependent arc off of each other. This happens in marriages and relationships all the time, where you have a woman who has a feminine core, but she has a masculine shell, and she's just a wrought iron bitch. And then a husband who has a masculine core, he can't show that because he's been trained by the culture that he's neglectful or abusive if he is just a masculine man. So he's developed a feminized shell, and then he's a pushover in the relationship, and they're both suffering, right? This happens in really extreme ways in relationships, to the point where they're both completely disconnected, and the boyfriend and girlfriend are just ultimately suffering to the point of, domestic abuse or violence or suicide or drug abuse and addiction and physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse. This shit is running rampant all over the place. I see it all the time. If I'm out in public or something, I'll see, it's usually the woman is completely fucking miserable and in control and has her man on a leash, and then he's sitting there completely fucking miserable and out of control with his shoulders hunched over, and she controls everything, and it's literally like he can't do anything, or she'll just bite his fucking head off, and so I could literally, this cat was just on my wife's lap for an hour and a half getting petted. And when I'm down here working, I don't neglect this cat. When I'm down here working, I'll pet this cat for 2 hours straight till I'm covered in cat fur. And if I don't pet him, he'll start biting on my cords and shit, on my cables. So you could say right there, like, I let my cat walk all over me because I have this codependent, guilty conscience rooted in a weakness or femininity, right? That says that if I don't pet my wife, says shit like that, you've been home all day and you didn't even fucking pet or give attention to the animals. And I'm like, what are you talking about? See, I get sucked into her frame. I let the dog out 3 times. I fucking pet him. Are we still recording? I fucking pet him. I gave him a bone. I sat there and had a petting session with the cat while fucking working. I gave him all fucking fancy feast and food and fucking water. What the fuck are you talking about? No. She's probably thinking, if we had kids, it would ignore fucking kids because you're a fucking workaholic. I'm like, well, you know what you fucking need? You need 2 husbands. That's what you need. One to work and pay all the fucking bills, and then another one to fucking sit there and pet all the fucking cats, motherfucker. Oh, I can't even upload this video now. Oh, God. Okay, I'm suffering. Goodbye.